Frozen secrets, the death of Officer John O'Keefe, and the trial that divided a town. In the brutal chill of a Massachusetts winter, a tragedy unfolded that would fracture a tight-knit suburb, expose raw distrust in the criminal justice system, and ignite national fascination. At its center was Karen Reed, a finance professor and the girlfriend of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, accused of leaving him to die in a snowstorm. But in the courtroom, a different narrative emerged, one of possible police cover-ups, botched investigations, and hidden motives. This is the story of the crime that never let go of Canton, and the woman who just walked free. A cold night, a dead cop. On the evening of January 28, 2022, Karen Reed and John O'Keefe headed out for drinks with friends at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, an affluent suburb about 20 miles south of Boston. By witnesses' accounts, they were drinking heavily. Vodka sodas, shots, beers. Enough that later, toxicology would show Karen's blood alcohol level was over twice the legal limit. As the bar lights dimmed near closing, the couple left in Karen's Lexus SUV. John, well-liked on the force and close to retirement, wanted to stop by a gathering at a fellow officer's home. According to Reed, she agreed to drop him at 34 Fairview Road, the home of Brian Albert, another Boston cop. She would later claim she did not go inside, but circled back later when John didn't answer her texts. In the black hours before dawn, Karen Reed drove back to Fairview Road in a growing panic. She called friends. Her slurred voice rang through voicemails. "Did I hit him? Did I hit him?" By the time she and a friend arrived back at the Albert residence, John O'Keefe lay face up in the snow, barely visible beneath a dusting of white. His face was battered. Emergency responders would find him lifeless, with head trauma and signs of hypothermia. He was pronounced dead at Good Samaritan Hospital hours later. The arrest and the accusation. Almost immediately, Karen Reed became the lone suspect in what the Norfolk County District Attorney would frame as a drunk, angry lover's hit and run. Prosecutors claimed Reed, drunk and jealous, had backed her SUV into O'Keefe as she left him outside the party, then fled the scene. On February 2nd, 2022, Reed was arrested and charged with manslaughter and leaving the scene of an accident causing death. Later, a grand jury elevated the charges to second-degree murder. The narrative, simple and salacious, made national headlines. A cop's girlfriend turned killer. But from the start, something about the case didn't sit right with the defense, or with a swelling chorus of online supporters who suspected a cover-up within the blue wall of Boston policing. The cover-up theory. From day one, Reed's attorneys insisted the official version of events was not just wrong, but criminally misleading. They argued that O'Keefe never died from being struck by her SUV at all. Instead, they painted a picture of a violent scuffle inside the Albert house, a brawl with a dog involved, that left O'Keefe unconscious or dead, dragged into the yard and left to freeze as a group of insiders circled wagons to protect one of their own. Their claims hinged on some odd facts. The taillight fragments said to prove were Reed backed into O'Keefe were found by a lead investigator days later, despite snow plowing and foot traffic. There were no drag marks, no clear tire tracks pointing to the alleged collision. Medical examiners found blunt force trauma that some experts testified was inconsistent with a vehicle strike and possibly more consistent with an assault or dog mauling. Adding fuel to the fire, the lead state investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, became the villain of the saga. Reed's lawyers exposed messages showing Proctor mocking Reed in crude terms and describing efforts to get her good. He was later fired for misconduct, lending oxygen to the defense's narrative that the entire investigation was compromised. First trial, mistrial and outrage. By the spring of 2024, the battle lines were set. In court, the state stuck to its simple story. Drunk, spurned girlfriend, a careless hit and run, and a desperate attempt to cover it up by driving around asking if she'd hit her boyfriend. The defense countered with a full frontal assault on the integrity of the investigation. They called pathologists, accident reconstructionists, and local witnesses. They hammered at inconsistencies in the handling of crime scene evidence and the suspicious absence of surveillance footage from nearby homes. The first trial dragged through the spring and early summer. The jury deliberated for days, but came back deadlocked. On July 1st, 2024, the judge declared a mistrial. By then, the case had become a cable news spectacle. True crime podcasts poured over every transcript. Reddit forums bloomed with amateur sleuths mapping taillight debris patterns and weather reports. Second trial, a verdict at last. Prosecutors vowed to try her again. By April 2025, Karen Reed was back in the same Dedham courtroom facing a second-degree murder charge. This time, the stakes were higher. Reed's defense doubled down, framing her as the victim of a corrupt law enforcement cover-up, protecting their own from a drunken fight gone bad. Over weeks of testimony, the jury heard about forensic anomalies, missing DNA, the infamous dog named Chloe supposedly involved in the fatal injuries. They heard the messy recordings of Reed slurring, "I hit him," to friends, which prosecutors argued was a confession, and which the defense insisted was the guilty terror of someone gaslit by police to believe a story that wasn't true. By June, the jury retired to deliberate. Tensions ran high, daily protests outside the courthouse, cable vans camped out, national commentators debating whether Reed was a reckless killer or the scapegoat of a police cover-up. On June 18, 2025, after more than 20 hours of deliberation over 4 days, the verdict came in. Karen Reed was acquitted of second-degree murder. Not guilty on manslaughter. Not guilty on leaving the scene causing death. Only on the lesser charge, operating under the influence, did the jury convict her. For that, she was given a year's probation. Outside, Reed's supporters erupted in cheers. O'Keefe's family sat stunned, calling the verdict a gut punch and an insult to his memory. The divided aftermath. Even with the criminal case closed, the battle is far from over. The O'Keefe family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Reed and 2 local bars that served her that night. The civil court has a lower standard of proof, more likely than not, and the family's lawyers believe a jury there will hold her accountable, even if the criminal system did not. Meanwhile, Karen Reed leaves court a free woman, but forever notorious. To some, a reckless drunk who dodged justice by raising enough doubt. To others, an innocent framed by a brotherhood of cops more loyal to each other than to the truth. The town of Canton remains scarred. Neighbors whisper about the case over coffee. Journalists still comb through court exhibits. In the age of podcasts and TikTok true crime, this story won't fade easily. In the final moments of the trial, as the verdict echoed through the hushed courtroom, Karen Reed wept. The judge told her she was free to go. But outside those walls, the debate over what really happened in that snowy yard rages on. In living rooms, on social feeds, and perhaps forever in the minds of a divided community, still searching for answers on a frozen night they wish had never come. Sources: AP News, The Times UK, Boston Globe court reporting, Norfolk County DA public statements. Interviews from Fox 25 Boston and CBS Boston. Court transcripts and verified evidence, exhibits, national true crime podcast coverage, and verified defense filings.